The flash of red and blue lights in my driveway at 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, that'll wake you up faster than any cup of coffee, let me tell you. There they were strobing off the fresh Minnesota snow, which honestly still felt like magic to me, even after all these years. But a police car? That was new. I shoved on my boots, didn't even bother with a jacket over my old thermal shirt, and headed outside thinking this better not be about the damn snowmobile again. Sheriff Tom Anderson was leaning against his cruiser, looking more like a guy who'd missed his breakfast than someone chasing a hardened criminal. Past him, 3 neighbors stood at the edge of my property, with their arms crossed, lips pursed so tight you'd think they were holding in secrets, not opinions. "Morning, Owen." Tom grunted, sending out a puff of foggy breath that immediately froze in the air. "Got a complaint about you this morning?" I shot a look at the peanut gallery. "Let me guess." The HOA Tom nodded, barely disguising his eye roll. "They say you're running an illegal vehicle on protected land and disturbing the peace at ungodly hours." I looked at my snowmobile, my pride and joy, parked right where I'd left it after my sunrise ride through the trails I'd been keeping up for 15 years now. That engine was barely cooled off, and already somebody had their knickers in a twist about it. "Tom, you know those trails better than anyone but me. You hunt on them every fall." He smirked, "Which is why I'm out here at 7 instead of enjoying my coffee. Let's clear this up quick." Right then, Barbara, the self-declared queen bee of our HOA, came stomping toward us. You've never seen so much self-importance stuffed into one puffy winter coat. She looked like a marshmallow with a grudge. "Sheriff, I demand you cite this man immediately. He's been violating ordinances and destroying protected wetlands with that monstrosity." Tom just gave her a look. Part patience, part pain. "Ma'am, I'm the sheriff, not an officer. I'll handle it." He nodded to me. "Mr. Randall has documents I think you should see." "I don't need to see anything," Barbara snapped. HOA bylaws are clear. No motorized recreational vehicles on any common land. It's in the covenant. I couldn't help but laugh, which predictably turned her face a shade of beet red that I might have felt bad about if she wasn't aiming her pitchfork at me. "Barbara, maybe check your maps before you go accusing folks," she huffed. "Those trails run through HOA property. You're trespassing, causing damage, and we've got documentation of you riding at 5 a.m., waking up the neighborhood." "The entire neighborhood," I shot back. "Or just you in the house you bought right at the edge of the trails knowing they were there?" Tom raised a hand, sighing. "Oh, and you got those deeds handy?" "In my office. Give me 5. My house sat on 20 solid acres at the north end of Pinewood Estates land my granddad had spent his life carving trails through. He'd built the best snowmobile network in Crow Wing County. Seriously, people would come from 2 counties over to ride here. When he died, he left me this parcel and the trail easements, but he'd sold the rest to developers over the years. That's how Pinewood Estates ended up here, 200 acres of cookie-cutter homes, all trying their hardest to look like they belonged out in the Minnesota sticks. When I got back outside, the crowd had doubled. Barbara apparently called for backup. 5 HOA board members now stood in my driveway looking like they were ready to storm a castle. I handed Tom the folder. Easements recorded 1987, renewed 2010. The trails run through my property, county land, and yeah, part of Pinewood Estates. Tom flipped through mostly for Barbara's benefit. "Looks in order. Owen has legal right-of-way. Registered, recognized by the county." Barbara sputtered, "That's impossible. Our development owns that land." I shook my head. "You own the residential plots. Trails were excluded from the sale. They're easements, which means you don't own them, you just have to live with them." One of the board members, Gerald the Human Lemon, piped up. "Even if that's true, there's noise ordinances." I shrugged. "No county ordinance before 7 a.m. on weekends, and I'm on my property when I start. Don't enter your so-called territory till I'm well past your houses." Barbara undeterred. "It wakes up my children. Your kids are in college, Barbara. Haven't seen them in 2 years. Christmas break, maybe." Tom closed the folder. "Seems clear to me. Owen's within his rights. No violations here." Barbara's voice shot up half an octave. "We'll be contacting the county attorney. There's no way this is legal." You're welcome to, Tom said, but you'll waste time and money. These easements are 40 years old. The group huddled, whispering furiously, while Tom and I stood in the cold. My neighbor Jim Patterson watched from across the street, probably grinning. He'd been dealing with the HOA circus longer than I had. Tom pulled me aside. Watch your back with these folks. They like to cause trouble just for the sake of it. Oh, I know, I said, remembering how last year Barbara tried to fine me for having an unsightly truck in my driveway. My land's not even part of the HOA. Tom chuckled. Bet that went over well. She was not happy, I grinned. Tom nodded. Keep your documentation close. They can't do much unless you actually break the law. Barbara stomped back over. This isn't over, Mr. Randall. We'll comb through those easements and haul you into court for any discrepancy. You do what you need to, Barbara, but maybe check your facts before you waste the sheriff's Saturday. She glared spun and led her minions back home like angry ducklings. Tom watched them go, shaking his head. Some people just need a hobby, huh? Apparently making me miserable is hers. I shrugged. Thanks for coming out, Tom. Part of the job. Gave me an excuse to check in. How have you been? Busy logging companies got me all over the county, plus trail maintenance before the heavy snow. Tom smiled. Planning a hunt next month. Can I use the trails to get to that blind by Miller's Creek? Always, Tom. Just text me so I know who's out there. He left, and I stood in the driveway a minute, the sky blazing blue above the snow. I ran my hand along my snowmobile. This wasn't just a toy to me, it was a legacy. My granddad taught me everything I know about these woods, where to ride, where not to, how to respect the land. These trails were his gift to me, and I'd be damned if a power-hungry HOA board was going to rip that away. But I knew this wasn't over. Barbara wasn't the let-it-go type. Around noon, my phone rang. Jim Patterson again. Owen, heads up. Barbara and her crew are door-to-door drumming up support for some petition against you. A petition for what they want the county to revoke your trail easements. They're saying you're destroying wetlands, disturbing wildlife, making you sound like an environmental menace. That's garbage, Jim. I've done more for conservation than their whole development, preaching to the choir, son. But you know how folks are. They hear official-sounding nonsense. They believe it. Did you sign it? He snorted. Hell no. Told her exactly where to stick it, but I saw at least a dozen people sign as I watched. I called my lawyer, Mark Stevens, who'd handled my granddad's estate. Owen, what's up? I told him about the morning about Barbara the petition. Mark just listened, typing away. Don't worry about the petition. It doesn't change your legal standing. Those easements are property rights, not a popularity contest. That's what I thought. But they'll make it hard, right? They might file something just to hassle you, cost you time and money. I'll draft a letter to the board. If they start any legal action, we countersue for harassment. Sometimes a sharp letter stops these things. And pull together all our documentation on trail maintenance conservation. If they want to paint me as the villain, I'll show the facts. Smart. I'll have it by Monday. Sunday brought a new low. Someone had put up a huge private property. No trespassing sign at the trailhead concrete base, bright red letters, and the kicker, it was on my side of the property line. Took photos, called Tom. They did what now? He sighed. Want me to come out? Yeah, need this documented. Tom showed up, tape measure in hand. This is trespassing and vandalism, he said, shaking his head. Want to press charges? Not yet. I'll give him a chance to remove it. But let's get this filed. I dug that sign out of the frozen ground concrete and all loaded it in my truck and drove it straight to Barbara's house. She opened the door, looking like she'd just come from yoga, saw me with the sign, and went from annoyed to furious in 3 seconds flat. What are you doing with HOA property? This was illegally installed on my land. I'm returning it to the party responsible. That sign marks the boundary, Barbara. It was 3 feet onto my land. I've got GPS photos and a police report. You want to take it back, or should I press charges? She snatched the sign, huffing. This is harassment. No, Barbara. This is me respecting my rights. Try it again, and it'll be criminal charges. Monday. Mark called. I found something in the HOA's records. They want to build a community center and park. Your trails cut right through their plans. Suddenly everything made sense. So this was never about noise or wetlands. They want my easements gone for their expansion. Exactly. They might try to claim public necessity eminent domain. It's a long shot, but they'll make it expensive. So what now? We stand firm, document everything, and respond to any legal threats immediately. Sure enough, by Tuesday, I had a certified letter demanding I stop using the trails until a legal review was complete. Mark replied in lawyer speak pound sand. By Wednesday, the HOA had chained and locked the trail entrances 3 different spots. That was it. I called Tom. They're blocking access now. Tom shook his head. Time for a restraining order. Cut the chains, you're within your rights. I'll document everything. Thursday, I woke up to vandalism. Stop the noise keyed into my truck, 2 tires slashed. Tom took the report. This is criminal, goes beyond HOA disputes. Got cameras. Getting some today. That afternoon, Gerald the Lemon called suddenly polite. Mr. Randall, maybe we could buy your easements. Not for sale, Gerald. Not at any price. That's unfortunate. We're prepared to take legal action, so am I. Let's see who runs out of patience or money first. Friday brought a win. Mark filed for a restraining order, the judge granted it. The HOA and Northland Development, the company behind the whole expansion, couldn't interfere anymore. But Mark warned me Northland's planning a 300-home expansion. Your trails make their land less valuable. The HOA is just their puppet. That weekend I rode the trails, clearing my head. Every bend held a memory of my granddad. I wasn't fighting for a machine or a strip of land. I was fighting for legacy, stewardship, and the right of people to enjoy this wild country. When I got home, a slick-looking guy in a suit was waiting in my driveway. Mr. Randall, I'm Richard Hartley with Northland Development. Let's talk. Inside, he laid out the offer, $2 million for the easements. Walk away a rich man. I nearly choked on my coffee. That's more money than I'll see in 2 lifetimes. Not for sale, I said. They're about legacy, not cash. Hartley's mask slipped. You're making a mistake. We have deep pockets. The HOA's legal fees, us. Think about it. I called Mark, told him about the offer. Is this about the money, Owen? He asked. No, it's about principle. Then let's fight. The next weeks it was all out war lawsuits, countersuits, expert witnesses, private investigators. My legal bills soared, but so did my stubbornness. The trial came that spring, 3 days of drama. Northland's lawyers tried to paint me as a cranky loner. Mark showed the truth, my stewardship, the easement record statements from hunters and conservationists. The judge listened, took notes, and finally ruled the easement stood. The HOA in Northland had to pay my legal costs, and the county attorney launched a fraud investigation. Barbara and her cronies had taken under-the-table payments from Northland. She ended up with jail time, the others got probation, and the new HOA board recognized the trails as a community treasure. Summer came, and for the first time in years, peace returned. I put settlement money back into the trails, better signage, upgraded paths, set up a trust to maintain them for future generations. Tom dropped by on his ATV. County wants to give you a stewardship award. Tell Martha she's my date. We laughed, knowing we'd finally turned the page. That first big snow, I rode out at dawn, stopping on the ridge where my granddad and I used to sit. The land stretched out before me, wild, free, and safe, for those who cared about more than just dollars. I whispered, "We did it, Grandpa." Kept it safe. On the way home, Jim was waiting with cinnamon rolls and coffee. You stood up for all of us, Owen. You showed people that you can still win if you fight for what's right. We all did, I said. Together, sometimes the law actually works. Sometimes the little guy wins, even when the other side has money and power and armies of lawyers. But it'll cost you sleep, money, comfort. And you'll have to decide if what you're fighting for is really worth it. For me it was. For my grandfather. For the people who believe some things shouldn't be for sale. But hey, now that justice has been served, here's my question for you. If you were in my boots, would you take the money and run or fight for something bigger? Where's the line between standing up for principle and just being stubborn? Have you ever had to go toe-to-toe with power or authority for what's right? Drop your stories and your take in the comments. Let's hear what justice means to you.